It's not your responsibility to punish yourself. That's not of God. There's no growth there. But one thing about honesty, it speaks about what's actually true. It looks for understanding, not to name a culprit, not to blame anybody else, not to target anybody else. Honesty allows us to name what happened and also how it shaped us, and in some cases where we participated. Because there were some things that happened to me I had no control of. I was just the bystander. But there were some things that I played a hand in. It's your girl Dorcas, and welcome back to the Dorcas Pittman Podcast, where I am on this journey of empowering her to drop the cape and heal for real. This is the space where courage, clarity, and strategy meets real healing. So over the month of January, we have been in this journey of becoming aware and gaining the courage to acknowledge the things that we are hiding behind the cape, acknowledging the things that are keeping us from healing for real, acknowledging the things that are keeping us stuck. And we're at a place in this journey where I want to encourage you to begin to take a inventory of all the areas, all the spaces that need healing. This is a pivotal point in your journey moving forward, because we're at the beginning of the year, and I know that you can do this. This is something that needs to be done in order to move forward, because you have to give it a name. You have to acknowledge. And anything that you don't acknowledge is a footstool for the enemy to use against you to kill, steal, and destroy everything that God has put on the inside of you. Everything that God has in store for you. That is a footstool. All he needs is a footstool. This is something that I've had to do. I wrote about it in Breaking the Silence, Christianity and Mental Illness. I had to take an inventory of my childhood trauma so that I can heal. And this is something that all of my clients have had to do. But not only do I want to encourage you to do it, I want you to do it without guilt. Because oftentimes when we are going through that mental Rolodex of all the things that have traumatized us, all the things that have hurt us, there's a level of guilt that comes over us. We begin to blame ourselves. We begin to shame ourselves. And that space is not conducive for real healing. That space is not conducive for growth. So as you begin to embark on this journey of taking an inventory and listing all of the things that you need to heal from, I also want to give you the difference between blaming yourself and being honest with yourself as you navigate through this process, because guilt lives in the blame and freedom lives in the honesty. Guilt keeps you stuck, and honesty sets you free. And I also want you to learn how to examine your life without spiraling into the abyss of shame. Because life is going to life. We're going to go through things. Healing is continuous. And learning how to examine your life and the areas that need healing now, you will be able to carry that into every season of your life whenever you need to heal. So this space, this point in the journey is all about you telling the truth with grace and not beating yourself up to prove something to anybody. Because there's a difference between taking responsibility and taking on blame that was never yours in the first place. Continuing to carry the burdens for other people's choices. Because there's a sad reality amongst women that we tend to carry guilt in the name of growth, in the name of choosing to do better, when that is not a requirement of God. And we do that by having a need to sit in shame so we don't repeat mistakes. And that has been indoctrinated in us because we've been told, oh, you should be ashamed of yourself for doing this. You should be ashamed of yourself for that. And people in our past have tried to shame us into submission, shame us into making better choices. So we have done it to ourselves. We have decided that there's a need to sit in shame so we don't repeat something. That's not growth. That's bondage. Or we say, if I'm hard on myself, that means I'm taking it seriously. That's not of God. That's guilt. And guilt doesn't transform us, it restrains us. Bondage. So you taking a inventory or making a list of all the areas that need healing can't be led by guilt. This process can't be led by guilt. Because if it is, you will rehearse your failures instead of learning from them. You will punish yourself instead of leaning into understanding who you are. And you will confuse self-awareness with self-attack. The key is to become aware of your emotions, of your thoughts, of your actions, not to attack yourself for mistakes, for what people did to you. That's not what it is. And if guilt leads the process, that is the space in which you will operate in. Because growth with guilt says I have to suffer to become better. But healing with God says I get to understand so that I can be free. Seek understanding. Seek wisdom. Guilt will keep your eyes on who you were. But growth will shift your focus on who you're becoming. And I want to be clear and say that God doesn't require you to beat yourself up emotionally for Him to transform you into who you're supposed to be in Him. The conviction that comes through the Holy Spirit will always bring about clarity and direction. That's the intention of God. But guilt will bring this heaviness that will keep you stuck in a constant cycle, keep you stuck without movement. And guilt-led growth is not really growth. You think you're growing, but you're really stagnant. You're stuck in this cycle. So when I talk about taking a healing inventory without guilt, I'm talking about honest observation without rejecting you, without rejecting any part of you, without blaming yourself, without guilt, without any of that. Because you're not on trial. You're coming into alignment with who God created you to be. And that's the most important thing. So as you start to take this inventory, as you begin to list these things tangibly, I want you to understand the difference between blaming yourself and being honest with yourself, right? Being honest about the situation, being honest about the trauma. Because when blame is the forefront in blame focuses on who's at fault. Somebody has to be at fault. It's somebody's fault that this happened. Whether it's yourself, whether it's other people, whether it's your past. And sometimes we even target God. God, you're the reason this happened to me. Blame keeps us on the defense. It keeps you always feel like you have to defend yourself. And not only does it keep you in this posture of defense, it keeps you in this space of shame, and you're always stuck in justifying your actions. And oftentimes it's usually focused on punishment. How can I punish myself? It's not your responsibility to punish yourself. That's not of God. There's no growth there. But one thing about honesty, it It speaks about what's actually true. It looks for understanding, not to name a culprit, not to blame anybody else, not to target anybody else. Honesty allows us to name what happened and also how it shaped us, and in some cases where we participated, because there were some things that happened to me I had no control of. I was just the bystander. But there were some things that I played a hand in. So honesty gives space for me to say how I participated with grace, without guilt, without shame. And that's the space you have to operate in. Blame will keep you going back to the womb, going back to the trauma, going back to the pain. But honesty will open the door for you to walk through for healing. And when you're honest and you walk through that door of healing and you begin to experience the lightness that comes when you cross that threshold of healing, that freedom, you have no desire to go back and circle the pain and circle the wound. No. Blame will have you asking yourself, why am I like this? Why me? But honesty will ask what happened and what do I need now? This happened to me, and right now I need somebody to give me space to feel. Some of the most powerful things that I've done in my role as a coach was to provide space for my clients to feel the emotions, to feel the anger, to feel and sit with the experience and process it. Because when it comes to especially childhood trauma that happened to you and nobody gave you space to feel, to be, or to process it, you're stuck there. You're stuck there. So being honest about it, honest about what happened, and being honest about what you need right now to move forward, that space will set you free. I have experienced some of the most miraculous transformations because a client was honest about what happened and then was honest with me about what they needed from me in that moment, what they needed from God in that moment to move on. And I could see the weight being lifted. So we don't heal by blaming ourselves into better behavior. We heal by telling the truth in a way that keeps us present in the moment. Keeps us present in this moment of healing, being compassionate with ourselves, being compassionate towards others, and then open to God, open to whatever God needs to do to move you into that space of freedom. Move you in the space of freedom. And when you're open to God, when you're present and when you're compassionate, that sets a tone to acknowledge the things that you need to heal from without guilt, without defending yourself, but with just clarity and an open invitation to God, for God to be God. For God to be God. Psalms 139 and 23 through 24 says, "Search me, God, and know my heart. See if there is an offensive way in me, and lead me in the way of everlasting life." Is there a way in me that will offend others and offend myself? That scripture right there is an open invitation to God and not an indictment on you. It's an open invitation for God to show you things with grace. with his eye, so that you can receive it without indictment, so you can receive it without condemnation. And that should be one of your anchoring scriptures as you are on this journey of taking an inventory and listing all the things you need to heal from, all the things that are keeping you stuck, all the things that you have suppressed. So here, this is it. Blame is a dead end, but honesty is a doorway. Blame keeps us stuck in the who and the why, which often leaves us feeling like the victim of our circumstances, a victim of circumstances that we can't change. Like I said before, blame will keep us circling the wound, circling the pain, and blame will ask us, why am I like this? Honesty focuses on the what. What is actually happening in my heart, and what burdens am I still carrying that don't belong to me? Honesty opens the door to healing. Like I said, honesty asks what happened and what do I need now. I want to reiterate that. I just want to reiterate that. And then when you take this inventory of healing, I want you to understand that it's not a rap sheet. You're not listing your crimes. And guilt is not a requirement for growth. When you start to take an inventory of all the areas you need healing, you often think that you're listing your failures. You're not. But what you're actually doing is listing all the areas that are weighing you down, all the burdens that are keeping you stuck and stagnant. You're not listing your failures. You're noticing patterns and listing the heavy things that you were never meant to carry in the first place. Patterns form for a reason, and understanding them is wisdom. That's wisdom. Understanding why the patterns formed is wisdom. And that's what you have to do. That is a part of listing, taking an inventory. And if guilt actually produced healing, a whole lot of us would be healed right now. A whole lot of us would be healed right now if guilt actually produced healing. Guilt will keep you focused on what's wrong with you. And this process that you're in is about identifying the unhelpful patterns that sabotage your wholeness so you can stop repeating them out of habit. This process is not about guilt. This process is not about shame. This process is not about any of that. It's about identifying the unhelpful patterns that sabotage your wholeness, your freedom, your healing, so that you can stop repeating them out of habit. And then you have to own your part and then leave the rest to God. Own your part and leave the rest to God. There's a thin line between taking ownership of your healing and trying to, white knuckle your way to being okay. No. You have to be intentional about understanding this part. There's a thin line between taking ownership of your healing and trying to justify your way to being okay. We're not doing that. When we do it, we do this inventory so that we can see the broken pieces clearly. But we don't have to glue them back together ourselves. We lay them out. We invite God in. We stay open to God, and we lay them out so that God can do the mending. So God can guide us along the way. That's what we do. That's why this inventory is so pivotal. That is why we do it. So that we can lay it all out. So that we can acknowledge it all and allow God to do the mending. So that God can restore us. So that God can redeem us. So I want us to be intentional about the questions we ask ourselves What did certain seasons teach us? What did we learn in these seasons of pain, of trauma, of hurt? What did I need that I didn't receive? For example, when I began to acknowledge the abandonment that I felt when my mom left me with my grandparents, I was able to acknowledge what I needed and what I didn't receive. I needed someone to guide me. I needed someone to protect me. And I didn't get it. And what am I still carrying that no longer fits who I'm becoming? Like, what am I still carrying that no longer fits who I'm becoming? That no longer is conducive to the environment that I am becoming in? Those are the things that you have to ask yourself when you begin to navigate this journey, or when you're in the thick of navigating this journey of just acknowledging the things that are holding you back. And when you focus on asking yourself healthy questions like this, questions that lead to wisdom, then blame doesn't have space to breathe. It doesn't have space to breathe. Because when you stop blaming yourself or others, you make room for God to realign your identity, your leadership, and your capacity to move forward whole. Move forward healed for real, and move forward free. That's what you do. Because you don't have to punish yourself to prove that you are serious about your healing. And God isn't asking you to blame yourself. He's inviting you to be honest so he can just lead you forward. God just wants you to be honest so he can lead you forward. He operates in truth. Truth is honesty. And when you're honest with yourself and when you're honest with him, you open the door and you give him permission. You invite him in to lead you forward through the doorway of freedom, of healing, leads you through the doorway to be fully aligned with him. So you know what we do every week? We have to affirm ourselves in this process continuously. You have to speak life into yourself. And that's what affirmations are. You're speaking life into yourself. You are encouraging yourself. And you are retraining your subconscious as it relates to how you see yourself and how you operate. So this week's affirmation is this: I allow honesty to reveal truth, not guilt, and I am safe to see myself clearly. I allow honesty to reveal truth, not guilt, and I am safe to see myself clearly. You are safe to see yourself clearly. This is a safe space. This is a safe space for you to be honest, so you can reveal the truth about the things that are keeping you bound, the things that hurt you, the weight that you're still carrying that you were never meant to carry. So I want you to understand this week that truth isn't a weapon used to hurt you. It is a tool used to untie the knots in your soul, the soul ties, the things that have been keeping you from growing. Truth is also a weapon or a tool used to surrender the weight of your past, to release you into true freedom. So the truth isn't a weapon used to hurt you. It's a tool used to untie the knots in your soul, to surrender to the weight, to surrender the weight of your past, and to release you into true freedom. You are safe to be honest with God and yourself because God already knows your story. And He's just waiting for you to invite Him into the ultimate edit of your life. The ultimate edit. He's waiting on your invitation. The ultimate edit. The edit that heals what hurt, strengthens what survived, and brings you back into alignment with your true identity. Who you have always been in Him. That is what honesty and truth does. So remember, as you are taking inventory of all the things that hurt you, all the people that hurt you, all of your pain, all of your insecurities, all the things that you have been hiding under your cape, all the things that you have pushed to the back of your mind, that you have suppressed, all those things that are keeping you stuck and keeping you from being exactly who God created you to be and walking in true freedom. As you are making those lists, I want you to remember that you are her. You are healed, you are empowered, and you are restored. Until next time, I'll talk to you soon. Peace.